Welcome to an education special edition of the Wine Show at Home. I've got a special hat on for this. All will become clear later on. I might even wear that hat a bit later for you. Now, I need you to go and get three things. So you need 2 bottles of wine, different ones, and they need to be open, and you need a couple of glasses. And we're going to taste those together using a special method. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes or so to go and gather those, because I want to tell you a little bit of background. Well, I'm going to tell you a story. It's a really nice story, and it relates to what we've been doing here. So let's just have a look. I got an email last week from a mailing group that I'm on, and I shall read out a bit of it. It says, "We need your help. Like a lot of small young businesses, we operate on very tight cash flow, and at this time of year, the bank balance is always pretty lean. We rely on our annual wine club shipment to bring in guaranteed income in April and May every year, which is why when we pay the big bills for the bottling, labelling and shipping of our wine. But France is on lockdown and lots of people are not able to get to work." Well, I know who this email came from. It's from a friend of mine, Justin. He runs a business called the Domaine of the Bee, which we have here. And we're going to come back to why I've chosen Justin for today in a moment. But he has great wines. They're really lovely wines from the south of France. He also makes wine in England. He's got really curious orange wines. He actually lives up the road from me, so he travels around quite a bit. He offered various great deals. There was membership of his wine club. Anyway, I got another email this week. It says, "Wow," capital letters. "We had little idea what a huge outpouring of support, kindness and love we would unleash when we sent out our faintly panicky email last week. In the last 5 days, we've had a huge rush of orders, numerous invitations to appear on wine trade conference calls, podcasts, virtual tastings, and lots of kind messages asking us to keep up the good cheer. Wonderfully heartening stuff, thank you. We have enough money in the bank to pay our immediate bills and to survive a couple of our restaurant clients not paying us for several months. We're really, truly grateful for all your support. It means a lot." Well, hopefully this adds to the support, because I'm going to go and taste you through 3 of Justin's fabulous wines. And we're going to taste them in an education special, because we've had loads of really good emails. I'll just read this one out here. It says, "Hi Joe, this is from Chris Joseph in Orlando, Florida. Hi Joe, what is the best way for a newcomer to begin learning about the beauty of wines? Learning resources, sites, etc. Chris." Well, we've got various answers, but we're going to start with, I guess, the best place to go, which is my friends here, the WSET. That's where I began. It's where Justin began. It's where Amelia on the show, she's a diploma graduate. It's where people go and build up, I suppose, a more systematic understanding of wine that helps you to enjoy it more. The WSET, or WSET, as sometimes people pronounce it, but the Wine and Spirits Education Trust, it has courses from level 1, which is a great fun introduction to wine, to level 4, which is a serious diploma, and it's 2 years of your life. Not going to get back, but you don't want it back because you've got a diploma. Properly challenging is the diploma. I have it, Amelia has it. It's the course that gets you onto the Master of Wine, so you need to do your diploma first if you want to become an MW, which is an altogether different kettle of fish. And you can learn about wine and spirits and now sake as well. They're really good sake courses. The reason I chose Justin, he's not just a brilliant winemaker. He is also a master of wine. So he's gone through all the WSET and gone into the Master of Wine program. He's also gone back to study the business of wine with the WSET. So your learning never ends. So you seem like the perfect person to try some wines with. So should we go and do this? We're going to do this using the WSET's structured approach. We're going to use the level 2 structured approach to tasting wine. I'm going to pop up on screen. You'll be able to see just here. The idea is it takes you through a wine tasting, giving you the key waymarkers as you do it, so you're not having to think off the top of your head. Come back to me. So what I'll do is we'll dip into it periodically, and you can sort of see what I'm doing. We're going to start off. What's the first wine that Justin sent me over here? This is the Bee-Side Grenache. There's some great bee puns all the way through here. This is 2017. Now these wines are smart. They're premium wines. This is £18, but very good for £18. It's a Côte Catalan. are second labels. This is a second label. They make about 2,500 bottles a year, half Justin's own fruits and half from a guy called Jean-Marc Lafarge. I might tell you a funny story about Jean-Marc Lafarge, but we've got to be serious. We're in the classroom. No mucking about today, Joe. So the idea is you get your first wine in your glass. We'll hold it up. And we're going to do this in the proper structured WSET way. And various people have asked, how do you get your tasting notes? Well, this is probably what we do. So let's have a look. Now, the first thing I want to look at its clarity. How clear is it? Is it clear or dull? It's clear. What intensity does it have? Is it pale, medium, or deep? Well, I can tell you this wine here is medium. If it was pale, it'd be quite lightweight. If it was deep, I wouldn't be able to see through it, but I can just about see through it. And what colour is it? It's a red. So is it purple, ruby, garnet, or tawny? This is only a 2017. It is ruby. It's not purple, very young, but it's got a little bit of, it's had a little bit of time just to settle down. So it is a clear, medium, ruby wine. That's great. So the nose, let's have a swirl and a sniff. You should be doing this the same. You might have a white wine, in which case you might be deciding whether it's lemon, gold, or amber. You'll be wanting to know again whether it's pale, medium, or deep. Let's have a sniff. So first thing, is this clean or unclean? It's clean. It's beautifully clean. It's a very clean winemaker, is Justin. Is it light, medium, or pronounced? This is medium. It's a moderate style of wine. It's not hugely expressive, but it's no lightweight either. Now, is it fruity, floral, or what fruit characteristics we get? Fruit, floral, spice, vegetable, oak. It's fruity. There is a touch of floral character on that. It's certainly not vegetal. It's not really oaky either. Is it spicy? I think it's more fruit and floral than spicy. Now I'm going to have a taste of the palate. So again, I go through the palate notes. I'll just pop them up on the screen so you can have a quick look. Doing my swirly slurpy thing. So sweetness, dry through sweet. It's bone dry. Acidity, low, medium, or high. Medium, this wine. It's not sort of sparky, but it's not woolly either. Tannin. It's quite low tannin, this actually. It's not hugely tannic. Body, light, medium, full. It's mid-weight wine, so it's medium. Flavour characteristics, it's fruity, this. This is, again, fruity, but actually more spicy than floral. So it's a fruity, spicy palate. Length, short, medium, or long? Medium. That's nice. So my quality conclusions, is it poor, acceptable, and it's better than that? Good. This is a good wine. Even into very good wine, actually. It's delicious. So that is the basic way we do the tasting, and it gives you a kind of shape. We're going to flesh this out in a moment. So you should have a wine, and you should have also done the same thing and said, right, what does it look like, its appearance, what does it smell like, the basic sort of condition, intensity, and aroma, and what does it taste like, and what sort of quality have I got? That is a delicious wine. I will now tell you a very brief story. The half the fruit for this comes from Justin's own vineyards, half from a guy called Jean-Marc Lafarge, who's a proper serious winemaker. And I was once at a lunch many years ago, and everybody was terrified of him because they really wanted Jean-Marc to do a deal on some wine. And I think he has quite a reputation for being a pretty serious winemaker. I mean, he's a fun guy, but I think there was some concern that this could get mucked up. Nobody told me that, so I'd had quite a lot to drink. Not for the first time, I can tell you. And he turned up, and I can see the buyer going, oh no, Joe's had quite a lot to drink. Stu, if you're watching, I'm really sorry about this. And so I loomed towards Jean-Marc Lafarge, having been fairly well oiled at lunchtime. I came up to him and said, I know something about one of your vineyards. And he looked at me rather sternly, and he said, what do you know about my vineyard? And I said, I know on one side of your vineyard is the largest nudist club in Europe. And Jean-Marc was brilliant. He kind of had a very straight face. And I can remember the buyer going, oh no, he's ruined the deal. He's ruined it. And Jean-Marc says, I tell you something you don't know about my vineyard. It's very serious that I'm going to get told off now. He says, on the other side is the largest swingers club in the world. That is what you don't learn on the WSET course, but you do when you get here. So Bee-Side Grenache, made partly from vines that are quite close to an enormous swingers club in southern France. So I was meant to be really serious for an education special, and I'm one of those bad teachers, you know, the ones who let you bring in games on the last day. That is me. This is why I'm not anymore an authorised tutor for the WSET. Maybe one day I will be sensible again. So £18. Let's try another. Now what we're going to do with this next one, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to show you another little bit on your screen now, because the systematic approach also gives you kind of clues as to what wines are likely to taste of. So it sort of says, well, if you can't think of it off the top of your head, this is what you have to look for. And so we have different sorts of fruits and florals and spice, vegetables and other aromas. So I'm going to go with the second wine. What do we have here? We have Domaine of the Bee 2016. This is their Coda Roussillon Voyage. It is £25. It's the main wine that Justin makes. It makes between 3,000 and 5,000 bottles a year. Let's have a look at this. So I'm going to go and do exactly the same thing with my tasting notes. So we'll start with the basic bit. I've got my notes here, just like you. So I'm going to start off. It's again clear. It's got a medium intensity, and it's another ruby wine. It hasn't turned into garnet yet, so it's still a clear medium ruby wine. Let's have a beautifully clean, but the nose now is more pronounced. There's more character to it, more interest, and as well as being fruity, it's now more spicy, and there's a bit of oak in there, I think. There's a sweetness that comes through. So I think that that's a little bit of oak that's tucked in. Justin, you may tell me I'm completely wrong, but that's what I'm getting. Now, let's have a go at the palate. You should be doing this with your wine too, your second wine. Aha! Still bone dry, still medium acidity, medium tannins now. So I'm starting to get more tannin mouthfeel. The body is still medium. It's not a huge wine. And it is still fruity, but now more in the spice, and there is a sort of an oak character. I'm going to have a look at this other sheet. So what sort of fruits can I get? I think that there's let's have a look. Bit of a swirl. There's blackcurrant and blackberry. Slightly figgy character off it. I know you normally get that off pudding wines, but there is something very warm. If there is a sort of floral aroma, it is roses, I think. There's a sort of rose character. There is a beautiful clovey spice, sort of vanilla character as well. And I think that's coming through from a bit of oak. What is it? It's vanilla and not really cedar. It's quite sweet. What else do we have down in these notes at the bottom? Ripeness. It's a ripe wine. I'm varying away from, it's certainly not baked or stewed, because I would always think of those as sort of bad things, but it is ripe and maybe a little bit of caramel sweetness off it. It is delicious. It's a little bit earthy. In the mineral character, there's earthiness. So I'm sort of doing this on the fly, just like you are, but I'm getting interesting notes. But when you have your little cheat sheet, if you like, it helps guide you. It's very hard sometimes to think, well, what am I smelling? That is delicious. Now, you will have drunk your two wines. If you want to go and open up a third, you can. I am going to open up a third. I've got it over here. Remember, all of these have been Coravined, so I've used my Coravin so that I can take out a glass. They're now sealed up, and I just delivered this morning to Dr. Danny, who is just going off to go and drop off some wines with his colleagues in the NHS. He's a gastroenterologist, but he's now been moved into going and working on a coronavirus ward, so he's going to dole out those a bit later on. So now, Les Genoux, a Coda Roussillon Voyage, a little bit like the Domaine of the Bee. However, this is the top cuvée, only made in the best years. This is a £35 bottle of wine, so it's something very special here. 100-year-old vines. The blend has got Grenache. We love Grenache. And I'm getting that sort of Grenache character because there's something lush and juicy about Grenache. It has a bit of spice. Carignan, which we also really like. Grenache Gris and Grenache Blanc. So there's reds and whites all in the blend here. Now then, let's have a swirl around here. Again, it is, I better go and do my notes, because you've got to be quite disciplined when you're doing your WSET education. I'm managing my sheets here. I need a clipboard. Charlotte, you promised me I could have a clipboard. You haven't given me one yet. Thank you very much, Charlotte, Ellen, Louis. Still working hard on this. Clear, medium intensity. Still ruby. It is a little bit more evolution on this. Clean, medium. Now, as well as the fruit and a touch of florals and a little bit of oak on this, I'm getting more interesting what this sometimes called, is it tertiary aromas? I'm right, this is 2015. So this is older. It's starting to evolve into slightly more notes, things like leather. And the wood on it is less sweet and more like, you know, if you're sniffing church pews, if you've got a nice old desk, an old sort of oak desk, like antiques. Oh, that's lovely. The aromas are more raspberry and, well, I'll come back to that in a minute. So, dry. Beautifully dry. The acidity is receded a bit. This isn't as fresh and as zingy. It's still beautifully balanced, but I think the acidity is probably still there, but it's just mellowed. Tannin. Interestingly, I think this is more tannic, but it's evolved a little bit. So I think this is, having been a 2015, it's medium tannins because they've grown a little bit over time. Medium-bodied, flavour characteristics, fruit, oak, but we'll come into those in a minute. This is much longer. Remember in the first tasting note we did length, short, medium and long. Justin, this in quality is outstanding. This is absolutely glorious wine, really delicious. Let's have a look at my little notes here. What aromas and flavours are we looking for? We are getting raspberry, certainly. Strawberry, when you get ripe strawberry, that's quite a Grenache character. Getting that out of this. The spices are restrained. Nutmeg, maybe. Certainly vanilla. Bit of licorice. Yeah, like Pontefract cakes. A lot of you won't know what Pontefract cakes are. It's licorice, really, but from Pontefract. Great town is Pontefract. Ponte. Let's have a think. In the oak, it is a slightly more smoky tobacco oak to this now. Well, yeah, it is tobacco. And a little bit cedar. You get cigar boxes made out of cedar. Oh, that is delicious. I'm just going to quietly enjoy this. So to give the rest of the bottle away, so I'm going to enjoy it a lot more. I hope that's been useful. So what you want to go and do is go to the Wine Show website, have a look on our education hub. We've got lots of interesting little bits and pieces done in association with the Wine and Spirit Education Trust. They're great chums. Have a look at the content that we got there. Look into some of their courses. It is the best way of learning a bit more about wine. And so all of those of you who sort of said, where do I go next? How do I give it some structure? Don't be put off by the idea you're doing a course. It's just lots of fun, to be honest. I mean, certainly, you know, when you do levels 1, 2, 3, they're great fun. You meet great people. You enjoy wine more because you're, I suppose, getting more into it. So it's a great thing. When you do level 4, you do the diploma. It's really hard and you make friends for life. I genuinely have friends for life in the diploma. It does take over your life. I gave a speech early this year when diploma graduates graduated, and I think I maybe mentioned this last night, and I told them a story. I said there was this girl and I was quite young. I quite fancied going out with her. And we never did. And I never asked her out because I thought I need to get the diploma done. It's that hard that you sort of put other things on hold. And the day I did my last exam, I met her just outside the front door. We used to say hi and chat a bit in this, you know, in our close. And I sort of said, "Do you fancy coming out for a drink?" And, you know, go out one evening. She said she'd been waiting for a year whilst I was doing the diploma for me to ask her out. And she sort of got bored of waiting and there was nothing going on in her life. So she was moving to the Gambia literally the next day. How different things could have been. It was a sliding doors moment. I'm very happy. Mrs. F, she's downstairs. She's very happy I did the diploma. Let's have a few other questions. We got one here. Jack Davey. Hello, Jack. Hi, Joe. I have my fortified and sparkling wines exams coming up soon for my WSET diploma. Any tips? I do. Sparkling, when you do your fortified exams, they're quite hard. And you've got to, learning about fortified wines more than anything else, there's an element of book learning about it. You've got to study the book. This is invaluable if you can get a hold of these sorts of things. So this is a great little kit from, I'll hold it up here. It's from Blandy's Madeira. And what you'll do is you have the 4 key styles of Blandis Madeira, all 10-year-old. And what you want to do is to try them whilst at the same time looking at the statistics for sweetness, acidity, age, production methods. And that way you'll be able to go and memorise it. You need to go and sort of study how sweet should port be? How sweet should sherries be? Sort of, bone dry. You just have to, more than any other subject, you just have to learn it quite technically with fortifiers and sweet, because sometimes they're hard to get right. Certainly while Madeira and Tawny Port can be mistaken for one another. So that is my sort of top tip. And get together in sort of half bottles of bits and pieces. With all wine exams, get together with a tasting circle. That's the best way. What else do we go and have? Mike, hello. First off, I love the wine show. We love you and the wine show at home. Knowledgeable, fun, simply perfect for everyone. We think you're amazing, Mike. Thanks for saying that. I'm a viticulture student and curious what types of glasses I should use when starting my tastings for reds and whites. We're bringing winos much happiness during these trying times. It's bringing me quite a lot of happiness. These 3 wines are certainly. If you're doing the courses, I think you are meant to use the ISO standard tasting glass. So it's like a sherry copita. We've mentioned it before. I use these Richard Brendan, Jancis Robinson wine glasses because there's only one glass to go and use all the time. And I think those are sort of perfect. The main thing I find is to use the same glass a lot, because the glass can change how you perceive different wines. So using the same one all the time. A few people have asked us about books and reading, and particularly in the context of learning more about wine. I'm going to give you some today about learning about wine and wine tastings. So we've learned today, we've had our very basic little guide through the WSET, which grows more advanced as you do your courses. 2 books that you should have in your library if you're a serious wine taster. This one just recently republished. On the 17th of March, Michael Broadbent, MW, died. He was an absolute legend. He remains a complete inspiration to many, many, many people. This book, Wine Tasting, was republished just a few days after he married again in his 90s. Michael, you are inspiration to us all on so many levels. This was his classic tome. It was, I think, the first time, certainly in English, Emile Pernod had produced Good Vin, but in English, this was the first time somebody had codified how to go about systematic wine tasting. It is a brilliant book today, as much as it was when it was first published decades ago. This is from the Academy de Vin Wine Library. I commend everybody who's a wine fan to go and have a copy of this on their bookshelf, because you sort of get where it all comes from. It remains totally valid today. It's a brilliant book. This also has some lovely articles about Michael in it, and now with him having died just last month, there's never been a better time to go, and if you're not familiar with who he is and his legacy for all of us, one of the very earliest MWs, it's a great book to go and have. So buy a copy of that. The other one that I adore, and I'm delighted to stay still very much with us, Michael Schuster. This is Michael Schuster's Essential Wine Tasting. It won everything when it came out amongst wine tasting books. This is an evolution into more and more depth in terms of wine tasting. If you're doing the Master of Wine, if you're doing the diploma, you've got to have a copy of this on your shelf. Michael is, for me, one of the great tasters of our age. He has an incredible palate. He's an extraordinary, very modest man. I know you are. Monica, his wife, makes the most amazingly glorious quiche, which we get to taste once a year. It's a wine tasting in East London. And also Michael does really good tastings. So I recommend any of Michael's tastings. If you want to go and taste with somebody who really will transform the way you approach a glass of wine, Michael Schuster is the man to go and do it. So those are the 2 books that I go and heartily recommend. We've got time for one more question before we all go home. I am doing really badly at catching up with them. This one, I have no idea who the person was, so I'm really sorry. But they said, hey, I've got a question for the wine show at home. Any suggestions for lesser known New World wine styles? I'm thinking of New Zealand Albarino. A very good shout. Whoever you are, I'm really sorry I didn't get your name on the notes. Chilean Carignan. Got a bit of Carignan in here, but Chilean Old Vine Carignan is great. Argentine Cabernet Franc. I love Malbec, but I think Argentine Cabernet Franc is amazing. Australian Grenache. So these got lots of Grenache in them in Australia. I'm going to come back to a bit of Australian Grenache later on this season. American Sangiovese, I think I've already mentioned, from Arizona. Really good. And all these mad old vines that you get in Swartland in South Africa. Look up Swartland. And a few of the people, Mick Craven's amazing to go and look up. Chris and Andrea Molyneux, have a look at their wines, but lots of brilliant producers. I hope you've enjoyed this education special. Remember, to get all the wines, subscribe to our newsletter on thewineshow.com. Send us your questions, write them below in the comments here, or email us info at thewineshow.com. You can get in touch with us through social media, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you do. These are now going to go to doctors and nurses who will deserve them more than I will. I hope to get to see you again next Monday. I'm going to take the weekend off next Monday, and we're going to go and try some more wines from Great Independents. Go and visit the Domaine of the Bee, buy some of his wines, save a great business from an awful lot of heartache at a difficult time, and stay home. Look after yourselves. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.